I wouldn't even brought it up if I know it was you. No, I was just trying to agitate to make it.
Good evening, councilors. Welcome to our work session this evening. Predominant topic tonight will be the police department. I just wanted to take a minute just to give you an update. The audit will be sent to all of you tomorrow electronically. We finalized that. The audit committee reviewed it last week with the auditor. We didn't have any substantive changes or anything from his report. I sent you all an email just with a brief summary on that. I don't know if all you had time to read it, but I just wanted to make you aware that you will get that. Most significant changes in that will be the adjustments made to the fund balances. I've given you a little more detail in the email that I sent you where it came from, but we are talking about a reduction of $658,000 from the general fund balance, $253,000 from the water fund, $478,000 from the sewer fund, small increase in the community development fund of $17,000, and a reduction of $14,000 from the capital fund. So, in summary, the bulk of these reductions are us writing down the last of what we are carrying as an asset for the cheese plant. About $250,000 of really aged back taxes that we're never going to collect the money on. And then there was a couple of miscellaneous write-downs that were a result of things from the 2018 audit that just didn't get recorded in the 2019 books, so they caught it in the audit. So, you know, the all sum, the net all sum is $987,000 in write-downs to our fund balances. And I'll send you all an update of what exactly those. But actually, it's in the email where the fund balances ended up. We'll carry those numbers over. Those also will be the beginning fund balances, obviously, for the 2020 budget year. So we'll carry those over and report out next, like where we are currently with the fund balances year to date. So just wanted to point that out. And last, I just wanted to give you just one last handout. We've got an update on the Moody's Investor Service from 4 November. And I just wanted to pass this out so you all can see where we stand with Moody. Our rating has not changed. They give a pretty detailed listing of all the factors that establishes our credit rating, and our credit rating is, as all of you know, is very low at this point. And I don't see a significant change in that based on the comments in the assessment that they've provided here. So I did want to provide all of you with that information as well. Okay, so this evening our goal is to get through the police department's budget. Chief Westcott is here with Lieutenant Kearns, and so I will go ahead and get them started. I'd like to keep following the same format we've been following. Counselors, you've got in front of you some new handouts. The police budget was one that we had a lot of areas to work on. So if you refer to the handouts we gave you, as well as the budget sheet you were originally given, but starting with page D4, this is in the handouts we gave you. Again, we made several administrative corrections in here, some errors, a few omissions that we forgot. Nothing drastic, but there are some changes, so that's why I've given you the additional pages. And let Chief Westcott kind of open up just kind of some general comments about the police department, his assessment of where things are since he's taken over, where he sees the operation going, what he'd like to see as far as resources moving forward, and then going through line for line and subject questions. So, Chief.
I'd just like to start out and say that one of my main goals immediately after becoming chief was to help stabilize the police department and restore employee confidence. The city hiring back one officer and filling leadership roles within the department was also a crucial first step to getting that done. It was critical to maintain the professional service that citizens of the community expect and deserves from its police department. I do feel that the Augsburg Police Department enjoys a great relationship with the community that we serve. And with that being said, I've tried to put forward a sensible budget that will also address some of those concerns as well as critical needs of the department to ensure we're meeting our goals. For manpower, we are significantly down from where we started from our authorized manpower of 2020. 2019, we were at 29. 2020, we were at 28. This year, we've lost 8 people through various reasons, the separation of service. We're down to 21 employees. We just recently had somebody that is transferring. And when I say employees, I mean sworn employees. We have an additional 3 dispatchers, administrative aide, part-time cleaner. We have another officer that is transferring. He'll be gone by the end of next week. Again, which brings us down to 21 officers. I know in here in this budget, there is slated for 23 sworn officers. I would like to say to you all that I really feel 25 is the number we need to be at. That's still 3 down from where we were. Out of that 25, we have the school paying for 1 officer, and that officer is out to the school. So really, in essence, that brings us to 24 officers at the police department. And I think with 24 officers, we're at the, I truly do feel we're at the bare minimum. We do have an active city, a busy city. And, you know, we have 2 divisions, the criminal investigations division, we have the road patrol division, and both are extremely busy. In 2020 alone, year to date, we've served 37 search warrants in criminal investigations. They're busy. Right now, we have an officer that's out on injury. So essentially, with the promotion of Lieutenant Kearns, we have 2 detectives working. They're very busy, and there's a lot going on in the city. And you know, I really feel that we need 3 detectives. We did in this budget propose eliminating the detective sergeant's position and making 2 lieutenants. The reason for that is that the lieutenant's positions are critical administrative positions that as the police department and policing advances in all the different requirements that are on police departments these days, it's critical to have the people in the administrative roles that can take on all of what's required of us now. Between bail reform, discovery law, police reform, and just increasing crime in general. I feel it's extremely important to have 2 lieutenants. They're both very busy sides of the house. The patrol lieutenant has a number of employees to oversee between dispatchers, 4 road patrol sergeants, and the rest of the patrolmen. They are extremely busy. And conversely, the investigative lieutenant, with the complexity of the cases, the amount of search warrants we serve, the amount of paperwork that's required, the manpower intensive investigations, it's just critical to have people at that supervisory level with the experience that can handle those types of complaints. So that's really my goal is, again, which I think we've already started to do, which is restoring employee confidence, stabilizing the department, and getting to a place where both the city feels that they're comfortable with and the police department knows that we're able to handle what we have in front of us for manpower. Any questions?
Yes. So I'm looking at page D3, or should we just go over that? I got investigator, and sergeant dash investigator.
That's giving up a detective sergeant in order to have 2 lieutenants.
Okay, I see.
So you'll see that salary line is 0.
Gotcha, yep.
And you'll see what we had for manpower, 1920, and proposed for 21. Okay. Which is 0.
Hey, Rob, I read somewhere that one of the departments, I don't know if it was the sheriff or one of the other departments in the county, was getting certified. What does that mean? Is that anything you want to pursue, or?
With the department getting certified?
Yeah.
Accredited?
Yeah.
The accredited process is an extremely lengthy process. It takes usually several years. And many, you're working with a state agency to bring the department to a certain standard that gives it that accreditation. Many departments have started it and then stopped because of the labor intensive process that it is. It can't be done by one person. It's usually many assignments assigned out to several administrators within a department to try to meet each goal. It's not something that I would say is unobtainable, but I can tell you that it's an extremely lengthy process.
Okay, just curious. And how are we coming on the reform that was requested by the state?
So the police reform is supposed to be spearheaded by the city, the head of the city. So I know Mr. Jelly, the city manager, has spoke with some individuals, leaders in the community to put together a core group. We're going to spearhead a committee that will be open to public discussion, questions, probably a survey, where the public will have input on where they want to see policing in their community moving forward. We have until April to get that process done. I am anxious to get it started so we can start getting some of the goals accomplished. And there are some things that moving forward through that process I think are critical, and some of what's needed is addressed in the budget presentation tonight. And when we get to them portions, I'll speak to those.
And how you doing as far as equipment and training money?
Equipment training money, again, that's in the budget, and we can go through the line items with it, but I think we're in a good place with what it is that we need in this budget. And, you know, moving forward, there are certain things that we are going to have to do with the officers, that we are going to have to get them trained in. And we'll address those needs as we're moving forward. But I think we have the funding in this proposal to get those things done.
Okay, good.
What was the number you wanted? That you wanted to be at 24?
I would like to be at 25, knowing that we've got one officer who is paid for and dedicated at the city school district.
Is the plan going forward still that 2 officers will be dedicated for airport security? I know we talked like 2.5 officers. Is that still the plan for the city?
Yes, to my knowledge, it's still 2 officers for the airport to pay for 2 spots. And then the 0.5 would be the overtime that's required.
So technically, even if you're at 25 officers, you have 1 at the school and then 2 are dedicated to the airport. You're still pretty well stretched then at 25.
Well, they would be on shift. They would be at the police department working, and then when the airport requires security, they would break free from the shift and go out there. So
And that'd be fully supported by the OBPA. So that would be at no cost to the city for those particular officers at that time.
that's my understanding.
Great, thank you.
So 1 injury. How long has he been off?
Since early spring, I believe it's been.
Does it look like any?
I can't say that.
We're working.
Just, you know, his body.
So I'm looking at 16 officers, 3 of which are investigators. Then we got 4 sergeants, 2 lieutenants. So that's only 22.
It'd be currently, you mean?
Well, according to this budget.
Plus the chief.
Plus the chief is 23.
But as soon as we have the officer leave at the end of next week, we'll be at 21 sworn physical officers at the police department, which will leave us 2 openings to bring us to 23.
Okay. You want 25.
That's what I'm asking for.
So according to this, you would want 2 more than in addition to this. Or is that included on here? I'm looking at D3.
2 would bring us to 23. And I'd love to hire 2 more after that.
So on paper,
On paper, you're looking at a budget that has 23 sworn authorized manpower.
Right.
I'm sitting here today to ask you for 25.
sure.
So,
That's just what I wanted.
Yep.
So you get 23 altogether, and you want 25. Make that note.
Do you have a list or whatever?
so we just received the list from Civil Service, I believe at the beginning of last week. I think it was at the beginning of last week, but anyway, I sent the canvas letters all out. They're due, I think next week some point. We'll see what we have for eligible candidates at that point, and we would be able to start background investigations on them. We did interview an interested candidate today who would be interested in transferring from another full-time agency who's already trained, which is an ideal hire.
So you could come in 2 weeks.
It'd probably be a little longer than that. We need to do a proper background investigation just to make sure we know who we're getting. But yeah, fairly soon. It could be fairly soon. If in fact it was a favorable background.
So you have one out that's sick that we're not sure if it's coming back, and then another officer is moving to another job. Is that correct?
Correct. So if you consider the officer that's out on injury, we have 20 actually working, but I have 21 people, but I have 20 working.
I might have missed it, just maybe I didn't hear about, so what, at 25, what would the structure of the department look like? So would there be a chief, would there be an investigative lieutenant and a road lieutenant, and then you'd have your road sergeant, your patrolman, your SRO? What, did I miss something? I'm just trying to look at the hierarchy of the department at 25.
Well, at 23, which is what you have in front of you, we would have the chief, we would have 2 lieutenants, 1 for each side, investigative and patrol. We'd have 4 road sergeants, 3 detectives, 1 being out on injury, and the rest patrol officers. One of those patrol officers assigned to the city school district. At 25, it would be to bolster manpower.
So they would all be patrolmen. There wouldn't be any addition. It would all be patrolmen added on. It wouldn't be any additional sergeants or lieutenants. It would all be right on the road patrol.
There wouldn't be any additional rank, lieutenant or sergeant, but I would possibly be looking at adding 1 to investigations and 1 on the road, depending on how it looks once we were able to, I guess, take a really hard look at 25, the number 25. Again, being 24 essentially because you have 1 at the school district.
Right. And those would be all promotions from within. So we would be looking at our own people for those promotions.
For which person?
Like if you move somebody to and is moving them to like an investigative position, would that be considered a promotion from like a patrolman position?
Yes.
Okay.
What would the total cost be to add that? I'm sorry, Nicole.
No, go ahead, Dan.
What would the total cost be to put 2 more guys in?
To put 2 more guys on would be roughly 185,000 entry level.
Does that include moving another guy to investigative too?
Well, if we took an existing person, moved to investigations, they get a stipend for that.
Right.
But bringing 2 brand new people in, salary and benefits is about 185 for 2 people.
Is a juvenile officer one of the investigators?
So we've had to kind of restructure that a little bit with one of our narco detective is the one that's out on injury. And as you know, that never slows down. So what we've had to do is kind of reorganize what they're doing and who's responsible for what. We've split the juvenile and general investigations up a little bit. And, keep in mind too, when we're talking about juvenile investigations, starting a couple years back, it used to be to age 15. Now it's to age 17. So the state of New York has made juveniles, made 17-year-olds still considered a juvenile, still going to family court and having their cases adjudicated in family court for the most part. There can be some circumstances outside of that, but so it's added a little bit of a workload to the juvenile officer. And then from there, we've split some of those duties off.
How long did it take to get one guy that might want to transfer?
I'm sorry?
How did the one guy that transferred, why did that come? You just heard we might have an opening?
No, that person actually submitted an application a while back, and we reached out to see if they were still interested, and we sat down and had a discussion, and it seems like they are. So, we had a very frank discussion about everything because, we don't want to waste our time doing a background investigation if they're not really interested in coming, but they indicate that they are. So we'll see what happens.
I was just saying, it'd be nice if you could reach out to get one more and fill them clear.
It's ideal, get them on the road.
That's what I mean.
Yep.
Will there be a academy this, I know usually it's in January, over at SUNY Canton, will that be running if we can get these positions filled? Is that something that we'd be able to get officers moved over into that program so we could get them on the road?
There is an academy starting in January. I believe it's after the first week, around the 7th or so. I have talked to the academy director briefly, but if we could get the background investigations done soon enough, we could probably get some folks into that academy.
Yeah, I think the national average for a police department for like 10,000 people, somewhere between 16 to 21 officers. And, if you look at the number of officers in Messina and Governor is probably not a good example for your cause because I think they don't have very many at all anymore. You can't, and I mean, they're a lot lower than us. We still have the largest department in St. Lawrence County, even though our population continues to decline and probably roughly around 10,700. So.
Don't they have a little bit different setup in Canton and Potsdam with the sheriffs and the state police and things like that, and campus police that help out so that they don't need as many?
I can't speak to how much they help out. I can tell you that, the village of Canton has their own police department as well as the SUNY police department there. In the sheriffs and the state police based right out of the village, how much they help. I couldn't speak to that accurately. Potsdam, they have themselves, plus they have SUNY Potsdam and the colleges. Both private universities have their own private security force. I don't know. So they kind of deal with some of the population increase themselves. When you got the influx of the students, many of them are living on campus. So you have dedicated police departments or dedicated security forces dealing with that population. Not to say that it doesn't bleed over into the community, but they have other agencies there. We're over here, I guess you would say, similar to Messina in the fact that we don't have colleges, but we do have other, I think, factors that make Ogdensburg unique. We're just extremely busy, and I can go to call volume and just show that the volume of calls that we answer, and the ability that the police department's had over the last several years to really follow up and solve some pretty violent crime that's hit our community, I think is is evident in the numbers that we've had, in the quality people that we have. And when you have the adequate people to be able to investigate those types of things when they're hitting your community, then, you know, it's much better for the community when you have a violent crime spike, to have the people there and you're not running around, you know, trying to play catch up with it, that you're actually out there able to be proactive, and that you're actually there having the ability to work and solve those crimes. I mean, just look in the news over the last couple of years between the armed home invasions and the shootings that we've had, and you know, the out of town element that have come in to sell drugs. And, you know, we're #1 in the state for meth labs, state of New York. You know, so it's a lot of stuff that we're dealing with here. So, you know, there may be an average to communities our size, but that's what it is. It's an average, right? Some are more, some are less. And, you know, I really think that the numbers we had, we were very successful in our efforts.
There was a statistic, I think it was last summer, or the year before, Ogdensburg had more methamphetamine busts than all of Jefferson County put together.
We had more than, I think, the state. I think it's not a number to be proud of, but it's a number that is eye-opening, and just goes to show that we have some issues that we need to tackle and deal with. And I think when you're talking about community development, you also got to look at, you know, the safety portion of that, to say, you know, if you want a place to be attractive for people to come, whether it's to live or to own a business, you have to be able to say you have a safe community for them to come to, and you have a proactive police department that's effective.
No, I agree with you very much on that. I mean, as a community, we're looking to bringing in larger events. We want to bring in fishing derbies. We want to bring in all these events. We take a lot of pride in the Seaway Festival, and, you know, a lot of things that go on in our community, and all those things require, you know, they require manpower. And without it, you know, we can say we want to improve the quality of life in this community, but without the manpower behind it to support us, we're not going to get anywhere. So I support the chief's recommendation on the officers myself. I think 25 would be ideal, but, you know, I think at least 24, but I would like to see the 25 as the chief recommends.
So considering holding allowance, stipend to move a guy into investigations and things like that, you said 185 pays for 2 guys. What about it? Do you still need a little bit more money for the other stuff? So would 200 grand shifting to the police budget be enough to cover what we need?
Well, we have some places in the police budget already that address hiring and outfitting people. Okay. And that would take care of new hires for the most part, and some other little stipends here and there. You're talking not a ton of money to take somebody from within the department, move them to investigations. You're really talking $900 that they get after 18 months, after their probation period is over. Once that's over, they get a $900 stipend for being an investigator above and beyond a patrolman's salary. So you're not talking a lot of money. Everything else stays the same.
Okay. I was thinking $5,000 bill or something.
And that 180 is like, that's the retirement, health insurance, if they took the high end and all that goes with it.
I would have to defer to Steve on that, but I believe that 185 would cover salary, health insurance, all the fringe, which is retirement, et cetera.
It's really interesting if you look at like the 2020, even with the amount of people that aren't there now, and the proposed 2021 at 3,527,000, almost 28,000. Even bringing 4 back would be double that, which would put us almost to where we were in 2020 with all the less manpower. You know what I mean? As far as cost, what the cost was in 2020 can still have all those bodies not there. So it goes to show you how when we just say we need, we need 2, we need 4, we lost 4 besides that. If you look at the numbers, if by adding back in 360,000 on the 3,527,000, we're right back up to, we've already lost 4 bodies. That's how fast the cost goes up for what we have. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Even though you lost 4 other people, we're right back to where we started. And the dollar amount is almost even. You know what I mean? That's how fast the cost goes up on just even 20, you said 25, 24 people.
Well, I mean, what the budget you have in front of you, it shows 23, an authorized of 23.
No, but I know it's 2 people gone and 1 coming back, and then even if you got another one, the injury, and Nicole's saying 2 more, that puts you right back where you were at 2020, and you're still down those officers. But that goes to show you next year's gonna do the same thing, do the same thing. And if we keep increasing by $400,000 or $500,000, what will we have 5 or 6 years from
No,
now?
I certainly understand. I understand your side of it. Like I say, I'm telling you where I think we need to be.
Oh, no, I am. It's just a playing the devil's advocate.
No, absolutely.
Because, it's
Cost
really
of it.
easy for people to just say,
Sure.
let's throw, 4 or 6 more people. And I think that would be a wonderful thing, but as an economic fiscal part,
Costs go up every year.
I
Understand.
know,
Yeah, it's a health insurance, retirement.
but that's just what's up. But I really think that getting like somebody else to transfer to would be a good thing. Fairly quickly would be, get you right where, at least where you were.
Yeah, I mean, new hires are tough. As you know, they get hired, they go to the academy, they come into a field training program, and oftentimes it's 9 months, plus before they really count for us. So, I mean, new hires are an investment. So when they leave, it's tough. It's a blow to any municipality that's invested in these people.
How long was the guy that left that's transferring? How long has he been here?
He got hired in January. We sent him to the academy. He's just come out of the field training program, and I think he's been counting his manpower for roughly 6-8 weeks, something like that.
So he's just over a year.
Yeah, we haven't had him quite a year. I think I think he got hired late December of last year, so he was coming up on a year.
Do you still have the clause you have to pay back?
We have a clause where they're going to have to pay some training costs. Yes.
It's a bargain for the receiving agency.
It is.
They don't pay for it because it's a bargain. Pay whatever the cost is, we tell the candidate.
If they pay it.
I think it was put in there originally to try to deter people from getting your training here and knowing I want to go over there.
I'm just thinking the thing you're talking about, gaining somebody, so that those agencies would be with them to pay it. Somebody trained. I mean, this is definitely who can steal from who career field at this moment. I mean, everybody is, I think everybody's looking to do what we're trying to do. How can we just get somebody to transfer? Because again, if you're an aspiring police officer, you go to the academy, you're going to take for a job that will give you a paycheck. But quite often you'll transfer to where you can go. And then I think another competing factor for us continues to be real estate play a lot more money, so there's another place to sweep some people. So it's always a difficult beat.
Especially state police. We've had there a lot that comes through there.
Steve, if you're gonna talk, Jelly, could you go to the podium? I can barely hear you from or whoever, when you're speaking, I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're talking about recruiting and the difficulty when people are transferring back and forth. But I'm sorry, I'll step up here and stay here. Okay, do we want to keep moving through the lines now? Is there any questions on I guess starting with page D4, is there any questions going through the operational lines of the budget. Rob's given you a pretty extensive explanation package for each and every line. But again, if there's lines that are jumping out at somebody, let's go ahead and get those questions out.
So I just want to make sure that they have the training and equipment that they need, and I guess he's budgeted for that. That's my main concern.
Great, thanks, Councilor Reach. While you're all looking at the sheets, I'll just talk through something real quick. You'll notice in the revenue section, we've got the amount of 185,000. That is the cost that I'll be sending over with the agreement for the Bridge and Port Authority. That's about $32,000 more than they were paying on the previous contract. And then on top of that will be any overtime. We've given them an hourly rate for that as well. So once tonight's meeting's over, I'll be sending that agreement over to them for draft review and then getting it back to everybody for official approval and signature.
I think they're upset by that.
By what's that?
$30,000 increase.
The original estimate we gave them was well over 200. I haven't seen this number yet. We're much closer. They were probably more talking to you because it was original number was like 210 or 15,000, I think, Counselor, when we originally talked to them. I was trying to figure out then, just how to do the staffing, whether we build them for fixed costs or we build them for a couple plus overtime. In the meantime, since our discussion started, they lost, with the Legion Air left. So the coverage requirement is a little bit less. So that allows us just to make an easy decision to fixed cost and then any overtime to cover that. And really for our purposes, and I don't, we're certainly doing our best to be good, good neighbors and good partners, but, for our budgetary reasons right here, we can't absorb any cost whatsoever of main operation. Yeah. Yeah.
On the longevity incentive, 150 on the appropriations. It looks, it went from 695 to 7,700. Fifth one down.
Oh, fifth one down, I had a decrease, huh?
Is there enough people to be able to get longevity to hit almost 8,000?
Yeah, once you, I think once it's 8 years on, or 6 years on now. Is it 6 years now? 6 years. Yeah, it was lowered to 6 years.
Councilor Fisher, this is a line we couldn't verify, but I'm almost certain there was a mistake in 2020. That 695 most likely should have had a zero in there somewhere.
I was gonna say, yeah, that or you're gonna owe people money.
Right. If you look at the other years, 2018 and 2019, you'll see the costs are similar. I think there was a mistake in that 2020 year.
Do we anticipate the same amount of people taking the health insurance buyout this year? Is this a year where they can re-up on their health insurance and take that buyout?
Yes, I think it's 5 people taking it. For a total of $20,000, it looks like at this point.
I just didn't know if that was an estimate or if that was actually how many people were actually already committed to taking it.
Well, that's how many people are taking it now. I don't know that that's going to change. It's usually fairly consistent due to people's employment or there's significant others' employment who takes it or doesn't take it.
Thank you.
Was the revenue increased as far as grant funding and from the original budget?
Which part are you speaking about?
Under revenues, I think there was, I don't know, 30, I forget how many thousand. You had some extra revenue for like the JAG grant and another one.
So the Burn JAG grant is a grant that we applied for and received. We're looking to use that for communications equipment. The 22,950 at the bottom, that is reimbursement from the Financial Review Board in reference to vehicle leases.
And do you guys do that internally when you apply for those funds? Or do you have someone assist you, or how's that work?
I had Andrea assist me actually with the Burn Jag grant. I think that was actually started with Chief Kennedy, and then kind of continued on when I started working with that, and I had Andrea help me.
And do you know of any other grants out there that come along that could increase the revenue side of the budget?
There's no grants that I'm aware of right now. I guess it depends on the particular program that we would be looking to implement. They're usually fairly specific for law enforcement. We've applied for them consistently wherever we can. This year we purchased 2 patrol cars fully on grant. We put boilers in the police department fully on grant. We're purchasing a new live scan fingerprint system that ties us with the state, which is basically a necessity at this point. That's half paid for with the grant. So, we're doing what we can to get grants whenever we can. More or less when we see specific needs to go for grants for those needs.
That's great. I wouldn't mind, adding 5,000-10,000 in a consulting line if it, shifts that burden away from the officers over to like a consultant who can go after some of that revenue for you. I don't know what you have in there for a consulting line. Or if it's needed, you can tell me if it's needed or not.
Are you asking what the consulting line is?
Do you have money earmarked in consulting for grant writing, or would you like some? Or
Talking specific about grant writing. Oh, specific about grant writing? Sure. If you want to give me money, I'll take it.
No, would it help you though if we budgeted 5,000 or 10,000 to help you bring in more grant revenue?
Well, it would be a matter of trying to source where those grants are, and we can certainly look at that and see what's out there and available. I'm not aware of a specific consultant that would go out and do that for us, but I would certainly look to Andrea for her expertise in that field of grants and going after them and how to best utilize that.
Yeah, if you could look into that and if it's beneficial for you, if you could convey that to Steve, and it's up to the whole council, but that's something I would take a good look at.
Okay, thank you.
On the D4 again, the second section, 220 and 240, office equipment and specialized equipment, where it looks like a flip-flop. This is like last year did it specialized, being that it went into investigations, and this year it's going just in general equipment?
No, specialized equipment is equipment that we purchased through the Stone Garden grant. That's all that is. So that's money in, money out.
So you're not going to spend any of that on this issue?
I've got for 2021 budget, there's spending in there for the 2020 Operation Stone Garden Award, 25,948 allocated for that. And that's money in, money out.
Okay. No, I was just looking at it because it was in office equipment.
It's in office equipment?
Yeah.
You looking at the one we see the handout we gave you? D4. Second page.
Yep. I know, it's first.
So,
Okay.
220 separate.
Okay.
Zero.
No, okay. Yep. The revised ones together in zero. I took my only notes in the first one.
Yeah.
Have you received all your vehicles?
No, I was just informed. I've been on the phone with them because I do have one vehicle that's on its way out that we're not putting any more money into. Both vehicles are in New York. Both arrived at the dealer. One was supposed to go to the upfitter yesterday or today, and the other one next week sometime. Hopefully they get in line quick and the turnaround's quick. I would like to see them before the end of the year, and then shortly after that would be ordering 2 more. We're looking at 18 weeks from the time we place an order, is what I was told by the dealers. So, or I'm sorry, by Enterprise. So COVID slowed everything down. The vehicles that are coming in right now, I made the order for those in early June or mid-June of this year. I was told we wouldn't see them until 2021. Vehicles that I purchased on the grant last time just incidentally took a year to get here. So the turnaround's slow. So when we get these 2 vehicles, I really need to turn around and order 2 more. And you're looking at, I mean, they're not going to come right away. So it's just to keep things moving.
Is that a capital equipment?
They're in capital equipment because they were traditionally purchased equipment that the city owned. It's still in here for the purposes of just visualizing it for you for the budget, whether it gets moved out into a separate line item or not. I guess that's for you all to decide, but that's where it's in right now, just showing the lease costs and what we estimate them to be. Right now, we don't have a vehicle in our parking lot that's a leased vehicle. They're all owned. So the first 2 that come in will be our first 2 leased cars.
And you were able to get them on a full grant the year before.
The two newest cars that you see in town, the black and whites that have the different scheme on them, those 2 cars were purchased through a SAM grant through then Addie Russell.
Yeah, she did, that's good. She did that. She did help with the bridge. I mean, the Lafayette Street Bridge on her way out of office, she got that. Good.
Any other questions?
Building equipment. What you got boiler. Yep. But it's always kind of driven me crazy over the air conditioning. And
Me too.
the air conditioners hanging out of the windows.
Me too. It's not efficient.
No, and maybe that's something we can look at to see whether there's certain areas that really need to be, cooled. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think we're spending a lot more money on,
We are, and we talked at the last meeting about the building assessment for here. The assessments we are going to do internally, and his building's top of the list for us to do internally, to just assess what we need and then bring you back, from building, roof, utilities. Boiler's done, that was the big piece. Air conditioning really will be a much simpler piece in a building that size. So we're going to do those assessments internally and bring that back.
Central air is a
No,
must today.
absolutely. It's something that we've talked about, and it definitely would be more efficient than putting air conditioners. The building does get extremely hot with the metal roof and whatnot, but
well, and that even when they're taken back out and stuck in the garage, stacked, the life expectancy is not very long. And they just look worse and worse and worse every time you grab them out of there or move them.
Just in the context of like the police effort and everything, Steve, we talked before about assistance from the sheriff's department as well as state police. I realize they collaborate in that, but we pay for those services too, and I don't know how those arrangements work or whether we could do something by resolution. Maybe you guys could educate me.
Yes, sir. I think now that Rob's had a couple months to get himself acclimated in there, I think we'll be having those discussions. I think in discussion with all the agencies, it's just a matter of sitting down and talking about how we can do things together more efficiently, how we can help them, how they can help us. So I think we'll definitely be having those discussions. And perhaps even part of our police reform effort. That's just one of the areas that we'll have an opportunity to address and talk about.
Okay, thanks.
Counselors, anything else? Questions for the chief? Mayor? Counselor Scampley? Counselor Kennedy?
Good presentation.
Thank you.
No, I'm all set. There was, the packet that he sent was informative enough to answer a majority of my questions without needing to ask.
Counselor Dilbo?
You guys have always said on the track.
Counselor
That's
Dilbo?
helpful.
Good. I think your car came in now. Picked it up yesterday.
Coming to Parkway?
Yeah. They picked up yesterday, put all the stuff in.
Nice.
Just kind of a general overview of the budget. You can tell me where I'm wrong, but we tax people, about 5.5 million is the levy. 3.9 goes to fire. I don't have the number in front of me for police, sorry, but a couple million, 2.7. And then, so that really, there is no more real property tax left. So without sales tax and without, as a distressed community, without a couple $1 million in state aid, we couldn't even fund a lot of these departments, and certainly not at the levels that they're at. So this is what we're all struggling with. And, well, that's kind of the way I look at things.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We don't get the sales tax. We extend that agreement.
Substantial question.
I just got a letter from Fowler, Edwards, and the village of Messina all came on board supporting Ogdensburg in the sales tax with the county, which is pretty nice. Getting united.
Okay, with that, I think we'll close up. I don't have anything else for this evening. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Our next and last budget session is Monday with the fire department budget. And so I will see you all then.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.